Captain Walsh, Senior Chief Cruz. Thank you both for allowing me to come to your installation and speak to your sailors and your staff. I really do appreciate it. I don't take it lightly standing in front of sailors. I do honestly believe it's a privilege and an honor we should be trying to achieve every day to have the privilege to speak in front of sailors. Thank you. Commander Armato and Agent 2 Perry, thank you so much for the warm welcoming and meeting me outside. Good morning, everyone. Like Agent 2 said, my name is Luis Fonseca. I am a retired HM1 hospital corpsman that served for 22 years. In those 22 years, as already stated, I completed 9 deployments, with 5 of them being combat deployments. Out of one of those deployments as well, I also went down to Haiti to help with the disaster relief down there and the recovery of remains down there when I was stationed on board the USS Qatar. So, Suicide Prevention Week, why is this month important? So I know I said week, but why is this month really important to me? Why is suicide, speaking about it, something that I feel very passionate about? One thing that my citation and/or bio doesn't state, and we'll get into that part of the story a little bit later, is because suicide has impacted my home severely, within my own home. A lot of people might look at that picture. That was the last official picture that I took probably 2 weeks before I retired from the United States Navy. And yes, I've seen the questions, I've seen the post on social media. I don't get involved in it, but the question always is, why did he retire as a Red Stripe with the Navy Cross? And why did he retire as an HM1? I used to tell people all the time that my biggest downfall in my Navy career was my alcoholism. When in fact, my biggest downfall in my Navy career was my inability or my lack of courage to speak up about my mental health. I hid a lot of secrets from the Navy with my mental health, and I believe that the Navy Cross allowed me to do that even a little bit more than maybe your average sailor. I went from the fun-loving partying guy that everyone loved to have out to the parties to all of a sudden being the guy that everyone felt that they had to babysit. So a little bit at a time, the invites stopped coming in. So the isolation started coming. I never really felt a sense of being part of a family. I must have come into the Navy with they weren't diagnosed, but pre-existing symptoms that I wasn't aware of. I remember growing up as a child with a lot of anxiety. And I was also raised very religious. So what my anxiety was revolved around was always explained to me by my parents was God was punishing me because I was a bad child. Right? And you need to repent for your sins, and you need to ask God for forgiveness. And you're lying to us, that's why you're having these attacks. I say that not to paint my parents in a bad picture, but because some of us can relate, especially some of us that come from a very deep-rooted Hispanic culture. My family immigrated, my dad immigrated to the United States at 16 years old, eventually joining the U.S. Army and serving himself for 22 years in the United States Army. So for my dad, the world that he came from was a lot of struggle, a lot of grit your teeth and push forward so we can make it in life. I personally never knew those struggles, but they were passed down to me. So the suck it up mentality, the whole don't speak about your feelings. You could probably count on one hand how many times I ever heard my dad tell me he loved me. Even though I knew he did, I'll tell you on one hand how many times I've heard that. So I joined the Navy to get away from my home, to get away from people that would have ended up getting me put in jail for a long time because I wasn't hanging around with the best of crowds. I dropped out of high school by that time. And so on my 18th birthday, because I knew my parents wouldn't sign for me to go into the military, I went into the actually Marine Corps recruiter because I was a high school dropout. and I assumed that the Marines would be the only ones to take a high school dropout. But I also knew that if I wanted to join the military, I was going to do what I wanted to do. So I walked into Marine Corps recruiter's office and found out that they don't have a medical specialty like the Army. I've only known the Army, so I only knew what the medic. I never knew what a hospital department was. On my way out, the Navy recruiter stops me and asks me, hey, what did that Marine recruiter offer you? And I told him, well, he didn't offer me what they have. This is what I want to do. And he told me, if I can promise you to get you that job, will you join the Navy? And I thought, how is a Navy recruiter going to get me into the Marines as a medic? And then that's when I found out the hospital deployment was. I joined in July of 1999, went straight from boot camp to Corpsman A School to Field Medical Service School, and from there right into the fleet. Back in 2000, and some of our older service members can attest to this, there was a lot of negative motivation. So what do I mean by that? Pardon my language. So here we go. Get your head out of your ass. If not, you're gonna kill someone. You're a piece of shit because you're not doing that right. You're gonna kill someone, right? We're nodding heads. That's how we felt we needed to motivate young sailors back then. You know, there was never no, hey, take a time out. Look at what you're doing wrong. This is why you're gonna hurt a patient, blah, 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 blah. Especially on the green side, FMF guys, right? Now, I shake your head, that's how the motivation was. So I went from my house trying to run away from that style of negative motivation, because that's how my dad was trained in the Army, and went right into a service that does the exact same thing. So very quickly, my mindset never changed. I went from boot camp being told, you're not doing anything right, push, 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 to Corps school, hey, you don't even have your mosquito on your shoulder yet, you know, you don't rate this, you don't rate that, you're this, you're not that. And then going to field medical service school, but then all of a sudden you're like, oh, you think you're a corpsman? You're not a corpsman, you're gonna get, you know, and so like the whole time you're getting put down. I've never felt that sense of someone uplifting me, teaching me, you know, a senior personnel taking me under their wing, and really giving me that positive reinforcement that I was kind of looking for. So I was already getting in trouble. I got stationed an hour and a half away from home. So what I was trying to accomplish didn't happen. I was probably the only sailor that was ready to go overseas, go anywhere else besides Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, yes sir. But on my dream sheet, all I put, because they give you the three choices, right? All I put was F, M, F. And they're like, oh, so you want to go with the Marines? I said, yeah, that's it. Wherever it is, doesn't matter. So I got stationed in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, an hour away from home. What I was trying to run away from was right down the street. So where did I find myself almost every weekend? Right back on the block, with the same people that I shouldn't have been hanging around with. And Fayetteville, North Carolina, back in the early 90s up into the late 90s, was not a great place to live. It, some of those years it would hit the top 10 murder capitals of the United States. That's how bad it would get sometimes out there. So anywho, I already started getting in trouble in the military. Had gotten an underage drinking charge while in the barracks, which I never understood because everyone was drinking in the barracks. Then after that one, I kind of kept my nose clean. My senior corpsmen were teaching me a lot about, you know, just repetitive, you know, intubation, crikes, tourniquets, bandage application, all that stuff. But still getting that negative reinforcement. Then in July of 2002, I was charged with the Class A felony, which is later dismissed. But at that time, my sergeant major gravitated onto that and started calling me a piece of shit every time that he saw me. We go out to the field, he would tell his Marines, y'all should kill Doc and just bury him out here. I won't tell anyone anything. And he would tell me this in my face. So this is my sergeant major. When we found out that we were getting word to go to Iraq, I just picked up HM3. So why does my citation say HA? I'll tell you why. I just picked up HM3. We got frocked on Friday. On Saturday night, I was at the bar doing what Fonseca does best, getting drunk. On Sunday morning, my chief picked me up from jail. And on Monday, I was eating the battalion colonel, taking off my coat, putting 2 French fries on that quickly. It literally happened that quickly. So November of 2002 is when that happened. So we had gotten word, I guess the triad got word that we're getting ready to roll out to Iraq or Kuwait to stage for a possible invasion. And I remember at that time my sergeant major just kind of ramping things up, and anytime he see me, he would tell me things like, if we're on country, I'll kill you. Because if we're in country and I get hurt, you better not touch me. You're a piece of this or that, whatever. It wasn't until Gunner Sergeant David Myers took me under his wing. And I later found out the truth about how everything perspired. So with AAVs, it's not like with the grunt company or here where you're one unit that gets attached to like maybe a ship, so you're with them for like maybe a year, 3 years. With grunts, it's the same way. Platoon corpsman will be with that platoon or that company probably all 3 of his years that he's with that Marine unit. With AAVs, you're all under H&S company, and then you just get tasked out to different platoons, different companies as they need corpsman support. So I've worked with a lot of different companies, a lot of different gunnery sergeants, a lot of company commanders at that time, and I found out that no one really wanted, everyone knew my skill set, but no one wanted to deal with Fonseca the sailor, if that makes sense. Until Gunnery Sergeant David Myers like, wait, I'll take Fonseca, like hell yeah, like he's a good freaking dude, he's a good foreman, like he knows. Gunnery Sergeant David Myers pulled me in and told me what happened, and I was like, why are you telling me this? He goes, because I want you to know that you have some value. Regardless of what anyone's been telling you, you have value. I said, okay, Gunny, I appreciate that. But he was also a mean cuss, a fair. Like it wasn't like he would pinpoint people out and just attack one person. He expected greatness out of his whole unit, and I think he got it. He motivated me to the point where I felt finally part of a family, part of a unit. I truly felt like I was amongst brothers at that time. And it was just at the right time because on January 7th of 2003, we embarked on the USS Ponce to head over to Kuwait and stage in Kuwait for the initial invasion in Iraq. And then subsequently, the Battle of Al Zaria on March 23rd happened, where we ended up unfortunately losing 18 men that day. And I was awarded the Navy Cross. So then, when the Navy Cross was awarded to me in August of 2004, it took that long for it to go in. When we came back from Iraq, let me backtrack a little bit. When we came back from Iraq, we got home. Right before we started the block leave period, I walked into H&S company, we all had to check back in, blah, blah. And H&S company, the captain at that time, says, Fonseca, come into my office. I said, yes, sir. And I had known that I was put in for an award at that time. I just didn't know the level of award. And captain pulls me in and goes, hey, you know your gunny put you in for a award, a valorous award, right? I said, I've heard about it, sir, but I'm not sure what. He goes, he put you in for a Silver Star. We don't think a piece of shit like you deserves a Silver Star. So we debated whether giving you a Bronze Star with Valor or a Palm with Valor, and we all decided that you deserve a Palm with Valor. I said, okay, roger that, and walked out of the store and left. 2 months later, I chopped over to 2-8 to go to Afghanistan, so I didn't have to deal with AVs anymore. I started hearing rumors in Afghanistan. Then I come home from Afghanistan, and 3 months later, I get told, have just whites ready. Of course, me thinking in Luis Fonseca fashion, like, oh shit, what I get caught doing this time? What do they know? What do they don't know? And then that's when I found out that Secretary of the Navy at the time, Gordon England, was coming down to award me the Navy Cross. So not too bad for a piece of shit, right? That's how I feel sometimes. But something strange happened that day. Instead of feeling like, for lack of a better term, a hero, right? Instead of feeling like I accomplished something great, instead of feeling like I did my job really well, and look, someone's recognizing me for it, even though my direct chain of command doesn't think I'm deserving of anything. Someone outside the big Navy or in the big Navy does. My mind had been trained so much to always focus on the negative. I was like, no, I don't deserve that. Because 18 of my brothers got left back there in Iraq. They died. I don't deserve this, and I still don't believe I'm a hero at all whatsoever. I don't deserve that label. The legend, the GOAT, bam, all this stuff that, people will tell me, or Facebook show, whatever, right? The memes that they've made, the funny ones, all that. Like, no, I'm not deserving of that. I'm a piece of shit. And I've thought this way for years, ladies and gents, for years. Because a lot of times I always just thought, man, all they're seeing is that one award. They don't know all of me. If they really knew who I was, they would look at me and be like, man, we gave that award to a wrong person. That's how I always felt. Always. I never felt deserved. So I volunteered for many deployments. A lot of people would always say, man, when we see you out there on the battlefield, and you're out there not scared, like you walk around, gunshots going off, and you're the one standing up like, hey, why is everyone scared? Let's go, let's move forward. IEDs go off. What a lot of people don't know is, it's not that I wasn't scared. It's just that I felt so horrible about who the person I was, that I felt that the only way I could ever kind of go out and feel of some worth was dying on the battlefield. A warrior's death, per se, right? So a lot of times when people would accredit me and say, man, you did this and that, and you're crazy, you did this, was just me out of sheer not caring whether I lived or not. And, okay, here we go. It was kind of my way of attempting suicide without actually pulling the trigger. Kind of like suicide by cop, right? Hey, let the enemy kill me. I'm ready to die anyways. There's a terminology used in the psychological world, but it's a word in everyday English language too. It's called ambivalent. Ambivalent. Do you pronounce that correctly? And that basically means that you have two conflicting sides. And so doctors have labeling with ambivalentness, which means that although my mind says I want to die, like my heart says no, I want to live. So I showed that picture because that picture was taken in 2009 when I was on board the USS Baton. Now I would like anyone to see, what do you all see in that picture? Someone, anyone.
They look kind of sad.
Okay, sadness, I agree with that. What else?
A little bit confused.
A little bit confused, okay.
Is it a gain weight? Weight gain?
Yes, sir, thank you. Gain weight, I was about 100, almost 180 pounds at that time. In the full-blown depression at moment. That's why I'm asking you, what do you see? Tired. Why do you think I might look so tired?
Keeping it together.
Okay. Do I look a little hungover? Yeah, let's call it, right? Let's not sugarcoat this anymore, ladies and gents. That's why when he asked me for pictures, I could have sent you 1,000 pictures of me looking happy like we all do on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere else, right? To make the world think that we're this happy person. But I show that because I want you to see it. Look past the awards. Don't worry about that. Look at the person sitting in that seat, right? That's how you should be looking at each other. Don't worry about their collar devices or their ribbons and medals. Look at the human being. Get to know that person. I always felt like no one bothered to get to know what was going on with me. Everyone just reacted. Oh, it's Fonseca. He's done so many deployments. Just give him a day or two to pull off. Oh, don't worry about it. I should have. I honestly believe in my heart I should have been NJP and kicked up the Navy a long time ago. Honestly. But a lot of stuff was swept under the rug. And then being a corpsman as well, I knew when was the right time to say, hey, wait, I need help, it's my mental health. And then I go over to Naval Hospital, right, Seaside, and then I'm there for a month, because I'm getting help, but I know how to say the right words to get me done with my mental health treatment, and to get back into the fleet, right, because I was still chasing the evals, I was still chasing the anchors. A young lady on Facebook recently posted something when she got out of the Marine Corps about how, she doesn't regret joining the Marine Corps, not like that, but she does regret like losing herself, compromising some of her values, chasing deployments, chasing the wars, and that hit home. There's a reason why I did 9 deployments, and not just 2 out of 22 years, right? There's a reason for that. I was running away, I was chasing an eval, an anchor, I was saving my career here and there. So that's why I put that picture, because I want y'all to see that right there is when I look back at that picture, what I see as a physical manifestation of my depression. Because you can see other pictures that the Navy has published about me, and that was when the Navy published, where I'm a lot slimmer, I look a lot happier, I started running marathons, but still, I was still drinking, I was still not getting the proper help for my suicidal ideations, my mental health. So all that stuff just kind of, it's a bandage, right? It covers it up until you really start healing the wound. It covers it up. So how did I get to this point in my life? Well, on July 8th of 2018, who here has ever gone to Barona Casino? No one? So y'all know that road is very windy. It's a canyon road. If you've never driven, it's a canyon road. On July 8th of 2018, my now 21-year-old son, who was 17 at that time, Angel, asked me, we used to live down in Chula Vista, asked me, hey Dad, can I go down there and see some of my friends for the weekend? Cool, not a problem. It's a Saturday. At this time, was definitely at my lowest. And I'm not very ashamed of much that I've done in life, because I feel everything that I've done in life has gotten me to this point today. But I am ashamed of this one thing that I did continuously throughout my life, and that's get behind the wheel of the car when I was drinking, especially with my kids in it. I won't admit that for everyone. That is the most shameful, most embarrassing thing I feel I have ever done in my life, especially with my kids. So that morning, I was like, yeah, Angel, I'll take you down there. So I said, okay, it's a 30-minute drive to his friend's house. I know how alcohol works. Took a bottle of tequila, I chugged it. I said, by the time I get down to drop him off, the tequila will be kicking in, and then I'll be drunk, so I won't be drinking and driving with him in the car, right? Because a good alcoholic can make any excuse why it's okay for them to do what they're doing. I'm an alcoholic. So I chugged a bottle of tequila, jumped in the car, went down. I had my Glock 41, my side, it's my personal carry. It's how much I trust this weapon. And I knew that morning, I had known for a while already I was going to take my life. I just never really had a date set in mind. Some people do, some people don't. But it was that morning, for whatever reason, it just, to me, felt that was the morning I was going to end my life. So we drive down Wildcat Canyon Road. I drop him off at his friend's house. By that time, I'm starting to feel the buzz. By the time I hit Wildcat Canyon Road, which is maybe 10 minutes later after I dropped him off, I was full-blown drunk, almost in a blacked-out stage. But I remember the whole, it's 13.1 miles. And the reason why I know how long that road is, not just because I've driven it so many times, but because I'm a marathon runner, and I've always thought, oh, 13.1 miles are perfect for a half marathon, right? I said, okay, this is it. This was going to end. I remember pulling out my Glock 21. It's a 45 caliber pistol, making sure there was a round rack, racking around, seeing the first case in eject, so I knew there was a second round in there. Putting my gun on the center console, and I said, all right, Luis, this is it. But the way we're going to do it is, we're going to wait till there's no cars around, because you don't want to hurt anyone else. We're gonna do it around a curve. So that way the bullet doesn't kill you. Oh, and we're gonna take out the seal. That way the bullet doesn't kill you. You're either gonna run right into the side of the mountain, or you're gonna run off the side of the mountain. And for you all that gone to Barona know what I mean, right? It's exactly how it is. So I'd come around a curve, but thank God if another car wasn't coming, so I just could not end up pulling the trigger. So finally the perfect curve came where there was no car, and I grabbed my gun, put it to my head, and I pulled the trigger. And the sad thing is, for a split second, the negative feelings came back of, see, you're such a piece of shit, you don't even know how to kill yourself properly. For a split second. And then that moment fled, anxiety hit, and I felt, but no, I really want to live. I want to be alive. So I ended up making it home, got into the driveway, parked my car, and I said, all right, Luis, if you really want to do this again, just man up, walk into your house, and if you can look at your wife and kids square in the eyes and say, I love you, then you can walk out to the garage and pull the trigger again. And that was my second plan. I walked into my house. My wife was taking a shower. I bypassed my kids. I didn't even look at them. And I had my gun in my hand. And then I remember just putting it down on the bed. And I walk into the bathroom, and my wife and I showered with each other just about every day. So I walk in the bathroom, and I said, hey babe, I'm home. She goes, okay. She goes, hey, you want to hop in here? I said, sure. I hop in the shower with my wife. And she had known something was going on. She had asked me a little bit here and there throughout the last month or two. My wife, I'm only 5'5" on a good day. My wife's 5'4", so no, she's not much shorter than me. I'm not much taller than her. I remember that day, kind of almost felt like I was a lot taller than her, because she put her hands gently on my chest. I remember she was like washing the water off, and then she like felt me like this, put my hand on her chest. She just opened her eyes and goes, babe, please tell me what's going on. And that was it. I broke down crying, and I said, I don't know what's going on. The one thing I do know is I just dropped off Angel. I'm freaking drunk right now. I just pulled the trigger on my Glock, and I'm pissed off that I'm still alive, and I don't want to be. She goes, okay. And my wife, like I said, retired HM1. She also was an IDC. She was an IDC for half a career. But I really believe it was just her wife mode that jumped into action. She said, hey babe, give me 5 minutes. Just stay in the shower, give me 5 minutes. Promise me you won't do it. So I said, okay, I'll give you 5 minutes. So in those 5 minutes, my wife grabbed all the guns, put them in the safe, locked the safe back up, took the key and the spare key that I knew where the spare key was at, went out and took the keys to my mother-in-law's house. My mother-in-law lives in the back of my property in the morning, a little bit over half an acre. She was in a trailer back there. She went and took the keys to her. On her way coming back, she's already on the phone with Chief Palacios, Rick Palacios, and I say his name out loud because I attest that man to me also being here today. They formed a plan. She walked in while she was still on the phone with Chief Palacios, and said, okay, HM1, my wife and I have been talking, this is the plan. And I said, no, Chief, I said, please, please, please. I said, I don't want to go to the emergency room right now. I want to stay at home one last night. So because I know they're going to put me there for at least 72 hours. I just want to stay at home. And I'm sorry, this was on a Sunday. So he agreed because the next day was Monday. He goes, Christina, which is my wife's name, you make sure you bring him straight to my office. The way he said it wasn't in a way of like a disciplinary way, right? Sometimes you hear that phone call and you're like, make sure you're here at my office first thing Monday morning. I'm like, oh shit, let's do something up, right? No, it was like, hey, I need him in my office, by the way. He sounded genuine, he sounded caring. Went into his office and he goes, okay, what's the plan? We're ready to go to the emergency room. And I said, well, Chief, I said, if you don't mind, I said, I would like to handle it a little bit differently. He goes, what's your plan? I said, I'd like to go to Fleet Family Services to go and talk to them instead. He goes, why? I said, I just have not been successful with Navy doctors, maybe because I see their ribbons too much, and I'll admit this, and I'm like, how are you gonna help me? You don't know what war's like. So let me just go to someone that doesn't wear a uniform. He goes, okay, so there's in the SAIL program here. For y'all leaders that aren't aware of that, it's called SAIL, S-A-I-L. So any sailor that has attempted suicide. It's an 8-week program, it's wonderful. I attested to saving my life. That's why my organization, No War or Shame Foundation, we donate 10% of all our proceeds back to Navy and Marine Corps Relief Society, also Fleet Family Services here in San Diego. Anywho, so I got into their SAIL program, came out of there, and walked back into work. The next day after, no, on a Friday, so Monday, walk back into work, walk into the chief's office, like, hey chief, I'm back, where do you need me? He goes, well, we got formation here in about 10 minutes, so I need you to get up there and lead formation. Excuse me, chief, why do you need me to lead formation? Don't you have an LPO? He goes, yeah, I'm looking at him right now. He goes, what, do you think that just because you have a mental issue, like you're not my leader? He goes, you're the best H1 I've ever had. He goes, I'd be a fool to replace you right now. He goes, and you go out there and tell your sailors whatever it is you feel right is to tell them, I haven't told them anything besides your way taking care of some personal business. So I took that opportunity to tell my sailors exactly what happened, that I had a suicide attempt. All of the fears and worries that I had about losing respect, about losing my LPO position, about losing my security clearances, losing respect, like I said, both up and down the chain of command, so from my junior personnel, from my peers, and from my leadership, all got wiped away that day when I stood in front of that formation and I told my junior sailors what happened, the program I just went to, and the things that I'm dealing with. And this is why I've been such an asshole to you guys for the last 6 months. 3 days later, I had a junior sailor walk into my office from my unit and say, H1, I've been thinking about killing myself. I need to know. We got that sailor help. That's the moment I realized that what I wanted to do with my Navy. I stopped chasing anchors. I figured if they came, and they didn't, they didn't. It wasn't going to change who I wanted to be as a leader. I stopped focusing on the negatives. And I don't say this to harp on leaders. I just say it from my point of view, how I was affected by some of the not so good leadership. There's a lot of great leaders in the Navy, just like there's a lot of great human beings in the world. But it's always that 1% that screws it up for the rest of the good ones, right? But I started to learn, instead of after a DRB and the sailor gets, stripped down of everything, and why did you drink and drive, why did you do drugs, and then they go get NJP by the CO. I was the one that took a step back and be like, hey, I want to just talk to you about why you think it's like okay to be drunk every day. Like, what's going on? Like, why are you coming to work drunk every day? Like, why do you think you got a DUI? I'm gonna tell you from my personal experience. I probably drank and drove 100 times before I ever got caught with a DUI. So I know this isn't your first time drinking and driving. Man, what's going on? Why do you think it's okay? Why are you hurting? Why are you masking things up? And I got so much better results that way than just, hey, look, checking the box. I sent her in DAPA. I sent her in mental health. I sent her in this. I sent her in that. And that's, if you ever listen to me give other speeches, I talk about checking the box leadership. But we got to get away from that. We got to really get to know the person. Get to know. I had another leader once tell me, H1, why didn't I know this and this and this about this sailor? When they were going up to NEP, and I knew all of this. And at that time, I was already 18, 19 years in. I was going to get ready to retire. So I was being a little bit more boisterous than most H1s probably should be. And I straight up told my chief, I said, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it was my job or my responsibility to make you a good leader and for you to learn about your sailors. So what I've always been taught is, as a leader, you bring your sailors in and you get to know them. I didn't know that I had to give you a data breakdown of all your sailors that are chief. I thought that's what leaders did. So I say that in order, to reiterate that we need to really get to know our sailors, get to know their family, right? Back in the day, in the 90s, right? The Navy didn't issue you a family. Your sea bag didn't come with a family. So no, what they do, right? And as a matter of fact, my family is the last thing to get packed because it's the biggest part of my priority in my sea bag. So that way, the first thing I open up, wherever I'm at, my family's the first thing that comes out of that sea bag with me and establishes myself wherever I'm at now. So, yeah, after July 18th, I knew that was the path that I want to go on. I've been speaking about my mental health, my suicide, my PTSD, my depression, my anxiety, my low self-esteem. Even though I've been accredited with doing so many great things and now starting this company, I would be lying to you all now that even after 4 years after my suicide attempt, if I've never thought of suicide again, I have, most certainly. It has crossed my mind. I would be lying to you now. I've been over 4 years sober. If I don't miss drink when I do, I wish I could go out and, at the HM ball or Navy balls or at a social event, have a drink with my wife and go home and feel like I never have to have a drink again. But the issue is I can do that tonight. I just don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And I'd much rather not open that Pandora's box. So I'm just stay away from it now completely. So I guess what I'm trying to say to wrap everything up is, when it comes to suicide, when it comes to mental health, first and foremost, anyone, regardless of your rank, regardless of any award that you are given, regardless of any college degree, regardless of whether you're a high school dropout or you're an Ivy League, college graduate, whether you're CEO of a company, the commanding officer, OIC of the unit, or you're young HR, mental health can affect us all. And it really takes us all to remember, although we wear this uniform, it's a human being that has to put this uniform on. And it's human beings that run the Navy. And we have no checkbook to make another senior chief cruise. Right? You have no value, right, senior? I can't go to the government and say, hey, here's $1 billion, I need senior chief cruise back. But I can go to the Navy and say, hey, here's $1 billion, that aircraft carrier that just got damaged, I need a new one. So always remember, our sailors are the most irreplaceable commodity. There's no price, there's no checkbook. So yes, I also get upset when I read things like on social media, oh, a whole army base gets shut down to look for NVGs, but yet there's been a young soldier missing for 2 months, right? Shipmate self, I understand it. I always like to say shipmate ship. And the reason being is, if you're not taking care of yourself first mentally, right? You're not going to be able to take care of your shipmates. If you're not able to take care of your shipmates aren't going to be able to take care of the ship. The USS Franklin, out of World War II, took over 70% damage to its hull. The seal of the ship, remember we call ships in the Navy female, so please don't get offended by this. The seal of the ship called up to the CNO, and this isn't verbatim, not quote unquote, but basically said, I want to steam her home under her own power. If I rip off 70% of your body, Lieutenant, would you survive? No. So you see the difference? 70% of a ship and it still survived, made a home under its own power. Human beings can do that for our most precious commodity. Captain, sir, thank you once again for allowing me to speak to your sailors and your staff. Everyone, thank you so much for your time. If anyone was triggered, please reach out to someone, speak to someone. I'll stay behind a little bit in case y'all want to speak to me. And just a shameless little plug, No Warrior Shame Foundation will be found on Facebook. The webpage should be up hopefully by next week. If anyone would ever like to share their story, we do webcasts, and I like to do just regular, common day people because that's who we are, right? That have dealt with mental health or how they have overcome some adversities. We'd like to share your story as well too. So thank you once again for having me.
So I would like to say one thing here. I think you guys have heard me say this before. The golden rule is to treat other people the way that you want to be treated. But and I've said this before, it's not good enough. When it comes to our shipmates, we can't treat them the way that we were treated. We can't treat them in the culture of suck it up, take your piece of shit. Just because we made it through, just because people next to us made it through, doesn't mean that that's the standard that we should pass on to other people. Treat them better than you were treated. Give the person next to you more consideration. Give them more of a benefit of the doubt. Doesn't matter what benefit of the doubt that you were given. That person next to you, to your left and your right, is more than just what you see. They're the sum total of a genetic background. They're the sum total of a family background that maybe indoctrinated them in certain ways, a socioeconomic background. They're also the product of what happened to them last night and this morning on the way to work and the flat tire they got and they're pissed off about something. Give each other the consideration that you want them to give you. No, give them more consideration. And if you don't think that mental health and suicide doesn't touch you, it does. It touches every one of us. I'll share just quickly a very personal note. Last October 18th, I got a call from my wife to my daughter who had gone to the hospital, was in the hospital. Why? Because she tried to kill herself. No indication. So I left, was gone for 10 days to go up and see what was going on. She got stressed out, anxiety. Decided that there was a better way to dealing with anxiety. And it was just to take a couple bottles of pills. And so I never, ever would have thought that someone who grew up in a household with two parents that are well-adjusted, successful, giving her everything that she wanted, no need for anything, not a lot of pressure, felt that anxiety, and the only way that she could find to express it was through the most unhealthy means. So this touches everybody. So ask those questions, look in each other's eyes, and take care of each other. So with that, thank you very much. It's a small token. You can't cash it in for anything. But anyway, thank you very much for sharing with us. Here you go.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. One thing I did leave out, and just to make it hit a little bit closer to home, we've been up here for about 44 minutes now. In the United States, every 11 minutes, someone ends up dying from suicide. So approximately 4 people have already committed suicide in the United States. Every 41 seconds, someone around the world ends up taking their life via suicide. So that's how big it is. Thank you.
Good. All right. Thanks for coming.